I just wonder, sincerely wonder, do you hear how hollow your last words sound in light of the pardon of all of the January 6th people, day one of this administration? I believe you're sincere. You want to protect law enforcement, but your principal, the president, pardoned every single one on January 6th. It rings hollow when you say these words, that if you spit on a police officer, we're going to go after you. Talk to my friends who are Capitol Police officers who were here, 5 of whom are no longer here. They are dead. And this administration.
Sometimes I feel like Donald Trump's cabinet secretaries are in a competition to see who can be the worst at their job. And honestly, we're all losing that competition because the incompetence is staggering and the criminality is disturbing. And that was on full display today when Attorney General Pam Bondi appeared before Congress and was confronted to her face about the criminality she's engaged in during Donald Trump's administration. And not only did she immediately fold in a screaming meltdown, she also humiliated Trump, and we're going to check it all out. And first, it begins with Congresswoman Malene Dean right here.
The 3 hallmarks of this administration are incompetence, corruption, and cruelty. I'm going to focus today on corruption. And in my mind, there are 2 types of corruption: personal, and then the other I'm going to call public, governmental. Attorney General, have you ever been registered as an agent of a foreign principal under the Foreign Agents Registration Act?
I assume you're talking about when I represented the country of Qatar for a very short time.
The answer is yes. No,
hold on.
excuse me. No.
For anti-human trafficking for the World Cup. Anti-human trafficking
yes or
for the
no?
World Cup.
Attorney
you can't
General,
put words in my mouth.
No.
You want to talk about incompetence? You're the one that said Joe Biden on PBS was competent. You had to retract those words.
Mr.
So don't
Chairman,
talk to me. Don't insult me publicly.
This is so discourteous. This is so outside the committee's guidelines. Taking a personal shot at me while swiping at Biden? Very strange and very unprofessional of you. The answer is yes or no, and the answer is yes. You were registered as a lobbyist for Qatar. Is that correct? Yes. Never mind. Don't answer. Did you disclose that when you went before for the Senate for confirmation? Yes or no? No, it was not in your documents. The answer is no. President Trump.
This was discussed at my confirmation hearings in detail.
It was discussed, but you failed to bring up the conflict that you had. President Trump recently announced he'd accept that $400 million Qatar airplane because it was just prettier than the one he was flying around in. Is it true that you gave advice that this was legally permissible? Yes or no?
I will not discuss any advice that my Office of Legal Counsel gives to the President of the United States on any matter.
Executive privilege.
When you spoke before the Senate, you said you would ask for ethical advice. Did you recuse yourself from that issue?
And talking about unprofessional, you say the President wanted a jet because it's pretty?
Excuse
Come
me.
on, this is a Senate, this is a
He said it
congressional
himself.
hearing.
He said it himself. Let me go to April the 2nd. You're a part of this, the president has dabbled in meme coin. He had the DOJ disband the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team. His son recently launched the Executive Branch Club, a private club with $500,000 memberships here in D.C. Any of this seem like it might be a problem, might be profiteering from the office, and maybe you and your ethics team might be concerned about these conflicts of interest, your own and the president and his family? Yes or no? Any concerns?
What I would be concerned about in Pennsylvania are all the child sex cases that we've prosecuted, all the CSAM cases that we've prosecuted.
Did you hear
in
my question?
Pennsylvania.
I asked the witness to actually answer questions that are asked.
Congresswoman Dean.
Chairman?
Please let the witness answer the question.
She didn't. And I would like to ask you one more question. You're not just complicit in this, you're actively helping and profiting. Isn't it true that on April the 2nd, the same day that Trump announced his chaotic tariff regime that plummeted the stock market, you sold more than $1 million worth of your shares in Trump Media stock? Trump Media stock fell 13% in the following days. Seems you avoided that loss. Well done. I yield back.
May I answer that, Chairman? I complied with my...
What's so funny about the answer that Pam Bondi gives is that she says, oh, I was insider trading. Just anyone knows that this stock would be worthless in Trump's media company. Clearly she is insider trading. But what she's saying is that, like, yeah, this is a worthless stock. Donald Trump's company is just a front for him to take money, for him to grift. No one actually uses Truth Social. This isn't a good business model that we're seeing. It is just embarrassing that this is the level of grift and criminality that we see in Donald Trump's administration. And of course, it didn't stop there. We also saw Bondi confronted over Donald Trump's pardons for January 6th 3 years. And her responses weren't too great because she really couldn't respond.
In addition to my role here, the committee that I serve on as an authorizer oversees Capitol security as well as federal elections, so I'm closely following the aftermath of January 6th. Recently, several defendants who received presidential pardons related to that day are now arguing in court that the pardon covers crimes like, for instance, illegal firearm possession discovered in a search of an individual's home in California months after January 6th. What's your position on whether the pardons cover these separate offenses?
Yeah, the pardon power rests with the president, not the Department of Justice, and some of that is pending litigation, and I cannot discuss pending litigation.
Well, I'm not asking you about who has the right to a pardon. I think as the Department of Justice in February wrote, the pardon is an act of grace which removes the punishment from a crime a person has committed. It further said, in its effect, the granting of a pardon is in no sense the overturning of a judgment of conviction. It is an executive action that mitigates or sets aside punishment. So as the chief law enforcement officer, what's your opinion, not the president's power of whether he can offer a pardon? That's pretty clear in the Constitution. But for crimes committed unrelated to January 6th, would you suggest that the pardons would cover activities or crimes potentially committed outside of that by the same person?
Well, I don't know if you're referring to Joe Biden pardoning his son after he said he would not pardon Hunter Biden, or the
No, I actually
commutation
referred
of
to
all
January 6th. I'm sorry.
all the sentences that the people that were on death row. I've met with those families.
No,
and all of those sentences were commuted. I'm not going to comment on pardons on either side of the aisle.
So, well, I'm not asking about either side. I'm asking, you're the chief law enforcement officer in the United States. You have a responsibility directly, you sworn oath to the Constitution, not the president. Want to know what your views are on the extent to which pardons cover potential crimes committed by individuals who have been pardoned but unrelated to January 6th.
Do you mean the ones that were done by the auto pen? I'm not going to discuss
right.
anything that
Mr.
could
Chairman,
be or not be pending litigation.
Respectfully, Ms. DeLauro accused you of filibustering. I think that's the height of filibustering. This is a serious, serious topic. And for you to suggest that you don't have an opinion or to divert to other things that had nothing to do with January 6 pardons, I think is frankly demeaning to your responsibilities and your job. With that, I'll yield back.
Pam Bondi can't answer the questions because she just knows how embarrassing it is. The constant deflection from MAGA is because even they get tripped up in their own hypocrisy. Pam Bondi doesn't know if she's backing the blue or if January 6th rioters were beating up Antifa cops who I don't know were installed personally by Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. Like, I don't know, like, they've come up with so many different narratives that January 6th was a righteous day, a peaceful day. But it was also all Antifa, and it was Biden, but it was Pelosi. But Trump sent them because it was peaceful. Like, they don't even know at this point. It is just humiliating the ways that they try to excuse their criminality. And that's why I'm glad we have voices like Jamie Raskin, who was calling them out today, right here.
There have only been 15 federal judges impeached in all of American history by the Congress of the United States. And it's always for corruption or bribery or income tax evasion. It's for actually engaging in a crime, a high crime or misdemeanor, not because the Congress disagrees with their analysis, much less because Congress disagrees with their correct analysis of a legal problem. It's never happened before. The Bill of Rights was added to protect the rights and freedoms of the people against abuse by the government, whether it's a Congress passing laws that infringe on liberty, or a president making up laws, usurping congressional powers, or violating constitutional rights, or indeed states trespassing the rights of the people. Now, here's the amazing thing. The framers understood, like Lord Acton, that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so they arranged a constitutional system where power would be vertically divided, shared, and distributed between the federal government and the states and localities, as well as horizontally distributed among the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government. And the branches would check one another's abusive ambitions, and the people would exercise their freedoms of speech, press, assembly, petition of government, and so on to counterbalance the tyrannical propensities of government generally. We're in a dramatic constitutional confrontation today where every facet of the framers' design has been activated to try and save constitutional democracy and freedom. From the day he took office, Trump has tried to exercise powers like a king, trampling the rights of the people, usurping the powers of Congress, denouncing judges and threatening to defy the rulings of courts, and violating the legitimate authority of states and their elected officials. Last Saturday, June 14th, which was Flag Day and the president's birthday, he chose to stage a $45 million military parade in the streets of Washington. In response, at least 7 million anti-monarchical Americans assembled in over 2,000 protests in cities and towns across America for the unveiling of No King's Day, a magnificent demonstration of the inextinguishable resiliency of popular constitutional democracy in the face of dictatorial designs against the people. But the people marching in the streets from Philadelphia to Los Angeles, from the boundary waters of Minnesota to New Orleans, are not alone in this process. They reflect a powerful constitutional opposition in motion. Political leaders at the state level are fighting back in court along with their allies in Congress, and we are winning this fight every day in courtrooms across America. More than 328 lawsuits have been filed since Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, and Elon Musk took office, and federal courts across the land have remarkably issued 197 preliminary injunctions or temporary restraining orders against this reign of lawlessness. The witnesses before us today, the attorney generals for the people of Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Jersey, and Illinois, are leaders in the fight for the Constitution and federal laws that have been abandoned by the president. And these chief state lawyers are winning significant battles in front of judges appointed by both Republican presidents and Democratic presidents. They are even winning in courts where judges preside who were appointed by President Trump himself. State attorneys general have brought at least 30 lawsuits against the new administration, successfully blocking many of its most reckless and lawless actions. They challenged Trump's efforts to nullify birthright citizenship and won injunctions to stop the order. They challenged Trump's funding freeze and won a court order forcing Trump to lift the freeze and deliver the funds to state and local programs.
That is exactly the type of energy we need, and of course, we are getting it from Jamie Raskin, and you can expect us to be covering it all the time on this show. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I'll see you soon.